Hello, how are you all doing today? Yes, I know I've got my Chris Dangerfield hat on, but to be quite honest, I've got it on because it's bloody cold outside. Whereas Chris wears it for affectation. I wear mine for keep warm. Hi, Chris. Anyway, I just want to talk about a couple of things. It's okay to be white and white privilege, just sort of like these things that have been thing. I'm 61 years old. Yeah, and I was all through my education. There was this sort of like subtext going on, this indoctrination going on. That white man bad, and that's I'm 61, and that's been going on all my life. And you sort of like always feel they're made to feel ashamed of your colour, of your race, and it's sort of like I'm thinking, why should we feel ashamed of who we are and what we're born? Because, let's face it, first of all, no one ever asked to be born, do they? You are just born. That is a happenstance of chance, isn't it, really? Where you're born and who you are is just, that's just how the cookie crumbles, literally. Well, I'll tell you something, I do know about my history, my family's history as well, like, up to a point, okay? Up to my great-grandfather. I know of, I've found the graveyards where my other ancestors are buried, right back to the 18th century, early 18th century. And it's in the churchyard, not far from where we are now, a few miles away. And that's where that side of my family actually originated. But my great-grandfather, it's only my great-grandfather, and when you think that where we live now, within my little family unit now, we've got great-grandparents, grandparents, parents, and children, all living together and all alive at the same time. I'm only going back to my great-grandparent, right, my great-grandfather, who, the story goes, was arrested for stealing a cabbage and a loaf of bread. In Taunton Market, apparently, and was put in prison, took a prison sentence, Now, stealing a cabbage and a loaf of bread, that is the action of a desperate man, in my books. That's an action of he wants to feed his family, he wants to give them food, but he has no way of doing it, so he's stealing food. So he ends up in prison, and they transfer him to Bristol Prison, Hallfield Prison, an old prison in Bristol, and his wife and my great-grandfather and his siblings end up in the poorhouse in Bristol. And the poorhouse, or the workhouse, if you want to know what that is, that's basically for people who are destitute, who haven't got any money at all, who haven't got a roof over their heads, no way of feeding themselves, because they didn't have social security, they didn't have housing then, they didn't have anything like that. It was, fairly sort of dog-eat-dog. And basically they end up in a poorhouse, and you work 10 to 12 hours a day. You weren't allowed out. You couldn't go out of the poorhouse. You were in the poorhouse. You worked 10 to 12 hour days. You got some meagre food, and you got some sleep, and you're up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and you worked till 5 o'clock in the evening, sort of thing. And it was a pretty, horrendously vicious thing. And no matter who you were, when you were in there, you're a kid, you're a grown-up, you worked. Okay? My grandfather, Jack, who was the oldest of the boys, got taken out of the workhouse, away from his family, where he didn't probably have any choice in this, and taken up to Clifton College in Bristol, where he was sort of like used as, to the young kids at Clifton School, the posh kids, he used to do their shoes, polish their shoes, do their clothes thing. So he was up before them and to bed after them and tidy their rooms. And he was basically their little slave. I mean, that's what he told me. He said he was their little bloody slave. And that didn't sort of endear him to the sort of upper class. I tell you that he really didn't like the upper class from his experience there. And he went at age 14. He got out of there and joined the army in 1912, and spent the next God knows how many years in the army, one way and the other. He managed to survive the First World War. Yeah. But, so, yeah, and my mother, and they were, I mean, he brought up his family. He had 11 children, and they were very, very, very poor. I mean, really poor by anybody's standards in anywhere in the world. And my mother got married, and that she had me and my sister, and my father buggered off. He just left, and my mother didn't sort of go to Social Security or thing like that. It was just in early 60s. It was just beginning to start, but she didn't. She went to work, and we were bloody poor. And so this is your white privilege that you keep talking about, like, okay. This is what I think, and we've been told that white man bad, and it's not okay to be white. Well, fuck you lot. It's perfectly all right to be white, and I've been white all my life, and I'm very, very happy to be white. I don't care about and I hope whatever you are, you're happy to be what you are. Yeah, and hating other people for what they are by nature of birth is just stupid. Just absolutely bloody stupid. So, yeah, just a little bit of my family history there for you. Okay? Yeah. Indentured labour. That's long after the Slave Act was repealed and everything like that. We weren't allowed to have slaves unless they were white, poor people. And we did in this country. So look at if you don't underthink, Google workhouse, Google poorhouse. Okay, see what you come up with. Take care. It's okay to be white.